Dania now.
It's Grant Daniel.
The gold logie this year. Oh my God, it's Grant Dania.
And our mum, Shazzy Dania. She's really crazy. And
George,
affectionately known
as Large Sarge.
It's all true.
It's all true. The podcast with Grant and Shazzy Denya.
and
George.
Yeah, we always say it. If you want consistency, this is the podcast not to listen to, if you know what I mean. We haven't done a quickie in a few weeks now. Usually we like to release them on a Wednesday, but hey, we're getting back into the groove of things because life is hectic and we're just like you beautiful people listening right now.
I have just clipped the intro there, so I should not be in charge of running this panel.
So just talk us through, how do you manage to cut the beginning of the intro off?
Because I had the sound down. And Grant normally is in charge of stuff, and he always asks me, he's like, I can't remember, do I do this? And I'm like, yeah, but I never actually pay attention. So today when I was trying to panel, I'm not doing a very good job.
It's okay. I mean, it's sort of strange that we don't have the fader all the way up ready to go in the first place, but I'm not going to knock anyone because, you know, we don't need to. We've got no bosses. We don't answer to anybody. We can do whatever we want.
I've got 4 bosses out there in the lounge room that you just saw a minute ago before I started recording, George. I've got 4 little kids out there, and so I've got 4 bosses. So.
It feels like we are doing a podcast in a children's like a childcare centre. You know what I mean?
It does. What have you got for the quickie this week? It better be good.
I mean, it's pretty good. Lots of research and lots of thinking has gone into this question.
Yeah.
If you could have coffee with one person, Shazzy, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, that is good. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you. This is when the kids come in handy.
Okay, if I could have coffee with one person, dead or alive, who would that be? Oh.
It could be a tea as well.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about what we were drinking. I was just trying to think.
That was my big issue. I'm like, do I want a coffee or a hot chocolate or a tea?
Straight away, my mind always goes to Miss Piggy, and I know she's a fictional character, so I often get chipped on that because
Miss Piggy.
I know. I don't know why. I've always had this fascination with her. So, she was the first thought. But then I think I would like to have a sit-down chat with Doris Day. Yeah. I think I would like.
Doris Day. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. Explain.
Doris Day, the Hollywood dame, Calamity Jane, actress, and I...
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm with you now.
I don't know why, but I just feel like I would love to chat with her about what her life was really like. And I don't know if it's because lots of people have said to me over the years that like older people have said that I remind them of her. And she had a very successful career in Hollywood. And I think she was a bit of a recluse. And I think she really loved dogs, and both of those right now sound very desirable to me, just living somewhere with no kids and lots of dogs. Yeah.
So when somebody compares you to Doris Day, you see that as a bit of a compliment?
No, I used to hate it. Because I never knew who Doris Day was, and I used to think that, yeah, and I remember when I first met Nelson Aspen, the Hollywood reporter for Sunrise, and I'd produced him for a long time, and then we finally got to meet in person, and he was like, you just remind me so much of someone. It's someone from Hollywood, an old, black and white film person, and yeah, and I was thinking, oh my God, he's going to say Doris Day because I've heard that a lot, and I don't know if it's maybe because I'm clumsy and she was a bit clumsy, or I don't know. It's probably not the smartest.
I'm looking at a photo of her right now, and there's similarities. Obviously, the blonde hair.
The blonde
I can
hair.
see that.
It probably was more with my my nose used to look like it was a bit more upturned, like before they had to repair it with part of my ear. I probably looked a lot more like her, but they say my mannerisms, so I don't know how she looks, but yeah.
They say she contracted pneumonia. That was how she died.
Oh, well, that's sad.
It is very sad. And she didn't have a funeral for some reason. Here we go.
Was it during COVID?
Oh, hang on. No funeral, no memorial, and no grave marker. Adding to say, Day didn't like to talk about a prospective funeral or memorial. She didn't like death, and she couldn't be with her animals if they had to be put down. She had difficulty accepting death.
Yeah, right. That's very interesting. Maybe
you align with those values?
No. but no. Well, I think every day that I'm alive and every experience that I have, I start to accept death a lot more than I probably would have 20 years ago. And that's I don't fear death as I used to. But I know that it is going to happen one day, and I know that I'm going to lose the people around me, and that used to petrify me. But I'm not caught in that anymore. I think I've evolved enough now to know and to believe that this is not all there is. I feel that we go on to, that's probably to do with, me learning to be a medium as well.
Yeah.
And really sensing that that there's so much beauty in the next life, or wherever we go.
Yeah.
And
that sounds like a really nice place to be.
Yeah, I don't fear death, but that's interesting. So she didn't have a funeral, and she didn't have a headstone, and she couldn't be with her animals when they died. I feel like there's something in there. I don't know what.
She wasn't into it.
No.
For me, the person I'd love to have a coffee with, dead or alive, I'm tossing up between the alive one, which is Hugh Jackman, because he's like my idol when it comes to anything, singing, dancing, acting. He started off in media. He's one of those genuine great dudes who would seem to be a really good person to catch up with. The other one is Steve Irwin, because I was obsessed with him growing up, and I just love his passion, his enthusiasm, his energy, and I think it would be a proper dream come true to actually just sit down. He didn't drink coffee though, so I'd be drinking coffee and he'd just be listening.
How do you know he didn't drink coffee? Now,
I'm obsessed. I watched 60-minute interviews with him, and they asked him, do you do energy drinks? Do you do coffee, caffeine, sugar, anything like that? Like, what do you do to keep so hyped up? And he said, no, mate, I'm just high on life.
Yeah, he was very much like that. I know I've spoken about it on previous podcasts, but the last time that I saw him, he had flown in straight from LA as a favor for me to come and do the sunrise when they pulled the miners out of you were probably a baby, so you probably don't remember it because it was some time ago. And that was the last time that I saw him, and he was, it must have been me with a Red Bull, because I remembered there was something about a Red Bull, which does make sense. That would have been early morning starts. But he was an incredible guy. His passion for animals was not just put on for TV. Like, he just was such a big energy and such a big spirit, and the people in his inner sanctum were extremely well loved and looked after. But I do remember that last time that I saw him, I felt really sorry for him because he was hiding. There was lots of US media. Have I spoken about this? There was lots of US
I think
media
so, but no, rehash it, because this is interesting.
Yeah, he had to do a car swap from the airport, so to try and go incognito so that he would lose them. They were pursuing him
because he was that huge.
Yeah, they just wanted to see him all the time, and I saw that really wane on him, and I saw he was almost like he had an anxiety, which I hadn't seen before, and I had seen him several times in various different situations, but he, I just remember he was talking about having to lose the media. And I was young, and I was, 25. And so I kind of thought, well, that doesn't sound that, awful, having to outrun the media. But when you see that many cameras and journalists and they're quite aggressive at times chasing someone, that is not a nice place to be in.
No.
And he, I think, could never turn off because they always expected this huge character, which he was when he was super passionate, but he wasn't always like that. He wasn't annoyingly, he didn't talk over the top of you. It was just when he became really passionate about something, you saw that energy rise. And I wouldn't
can't
mind
always be operating at that level. Yeah, I reckon there'd be a bit more to him as well, a bit more to him, beneath the conservation and the wildlife. And I just would love to know a bit more about him as a person and where he gets his passion from, because you can apply that to everything in everyday life.
I remember him saying that he got his passion from his dad, and his
Bob, yeah.
His family was everything. His kids were everything to him, and he loved Terry.
Yeah.
And you felt that. And he would always say that he was the luckiest person, in the whole wide world, and you believed that. And he was an incredible guy. I was heartbroken. That period really left me with a lot of trauma. So we lost Peter Brock, who, he was the week before, I think, we spoke about that. And that was a big shock coming from Bathurst. Yeah. And my dad sold Holdens when he was much, much younger. So Peter Brock was the big idol. So for him to die was shocking. And then when Steve Irwin, when I heard the news and how he had died, I couldn't believe it. And I remember where I was on that day. I remember everything. I remember his funeral. So I was working at his funeral. And
you had to work at the funeral. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I was absolutely shattered, but I didn't want anybody else to take my role. I wanted to be there to make sure that the coverage was
done right.
Yeah, it was enough to really remember him well by. So so I was up there for that, and seeing busloads of people turn up from very early on, from people that travelled. Some people had travelled from overseas to leave flowers, at the Australia Zoo gate, and they were crying, and they didn't know him. They knew his persona, his on TV persona, and that was one of the hardest days I've ever had in my life. And I remember at the time having an argument with a lot of people who, would say some rude regard about Steve, or some joke, and I really took it very personally. So I remembered that being a really difficult year for me. So
he was an icon, and look, when he passed away, a lot of family and friends, and I was only very, very young, but I used to dress up as Steve Irwin and wear all the khaki and had toy snakes and crocodiles. And when he passed away, family were calling mum and dad saying, "How is George? Is he okay?" And I was, absolutely devastated. You know what's interesting though, Shezzy? The two people that we want to have coffee with are both animal lovers.
Yes. So what is that?
How wild's that?
Yeah.
Animal lovers are the best type of people. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And they're And we both want to talk to people who have on-air personas, and we want to know, what their lives are like and what they are like, when they're off air. That's also very
go beneath all of that content. Hey, I know we're about 5 minutes over for this quickie, but what we should probably do is let the listeners know that there is a very special episode coming out this Friday that has been recorded, and it takes a very unusual turn, a bit of a twist that I definitely didn't expect, and it left me speechless. It really did. Yeah, I don't know what else to say on that, but I'm still kind of like, what the actual heck just happened? That was pretty
same.
crazy.
Yeah, same. Without going into too much detail, I had to have a bit of a debrief after it all happened, and very interesting listening. Yeah, wasn't expecting that.
No, exactly. I think we're doing okay for just us. GD down. He's off being busy doing Deal or No Deal. I think it's okay. I think it's all right. Let us know what you think in the reviews and ratings on DMs and on the podcast sites. Yep. And give us things to talk about. You know what I mean? We're 10 seasons in now.
10 seasons.
And I'm not saying we're out of ideas, but we definitely welcome them.
Well, we like to be guided by you as well, because we are also learning and feeling our way along. And so when you throw a topic at us, we love being able to learn more about that.
Somebody sent me a message saying we need to look at the framing of our YouTube videos, because you know how we mentioned that Grant likes to adjust himself?
Yes.
He's doing a lot of adjusting, if you know what I mean. And there's a lot of adjusting on show, which I didn't recognize. But yeah, he adjusts himself a lot.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll have to have a look at this. Right, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. Make sure you tune in to this Friday when, something like really cool happens. Not saying too much, but we'll leave you with that.
Something definitely does happen. It was very natural. It was very organic. It was not planned, and that's why I love podcasting. Be true. Good catching up, Shez.
Mwah. Love you. Bye.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Shezzy Denya.
Bye-bye.